Like announcing them.
Well, let's start. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Survivor New York Bannerman Island exit interview podcast on Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. And I know a thing or two about never shutting the hell up. I'm Naomi Calhoun. I'm your co host. And joining me today is the incomparable host of Survivor New York, executive producer, creator, founder, all things good in the world, Chris Lord. Chris, how's it going? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little bit tipsy because I just came back from a holiday party, but I'm excited to be here.
Wow.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be wild because I love today's guest.
I
I
do
love
too.
them.
I'm so glad you're tipsy. This is going to be so much fun. I should have had a shot before this. Well, uh, anybody who watched the past 4 episodes of Survivor New York knows that there's one legendary coach on Survivor, but now there's two. And we are
Yes.
happy to bring you Coach Drew, aka Andrew, from Survivor New York 5. Andrew,
Yay.
how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm also having a drink out of my Bannerman Island mug. What are we calling this? Water bottle
Oh
and
my
my
God.
Tito's sweater that I have on top of it. Merry Christmas.
I think you're the only player from like the last like 3 seasons who can still say they have their water bottle.
Of course.
Someone
I
proved
use
me
this for everything.
wrong. That's so cool.
We need players dropping their photos of the water bottles in the chat. Andrew, I'm so happy you're here. Well, I'm not happy. I'm always happy
Yeah.
that people showed up to these things because we can't change the past, but we can celebrate the now. And I cannot wait to dive into this season. But first, I wanted to talk about uh, your application, your casting, because we did a video call together. And I remember as soon as you were done, I don't know if I've told you this, I must have, but because I tell everyone everything. As soon as we were done with our call, I texted Chris and I was like, "I love Andrew. He's into me. I want him in." And it was no doubt in my mind from the moment that we spoke to have you on this season. Did I ever say that to you before?
If you had, I feel like I would have remembered that. All I remember from the interview is that you had just gotten your COVID shot, or you had
Oh yeah, I
COVID.
was really fucked up from my
Yes,
COVID vaccine.
Oh
yes.
my God.
And
And
I'm
you
like, she's
did the
gonna hate me because
interview?
she doesn't even know where she's at
Oh
right
my
now. She's gonna
God.
hate me in the interview, and then I guess not.
No, I
No,
was
I
just like
remember that.
exhausted. Yeah,
I'm surprised you did that, Naomi, because the day after my shot, I was done, done.
I
Oh
didn't
my
think it was going
God.
to be so bad. I was feeling really, really sick, and I think I was cam off for most of it because I was probably like head down on the desk. But it is a sign that while I was like kind of dying from the antibodies, keeping me safe, you were keeping me entertained the whole conversation. And you had written sort of like radio on your application, and some people say they're like a radio talker, podcaster, and they don't have the goods to back it up. But I knew immediately that you were not one of those people. That you knew you knew how to converse and have a really fun conversation. And I love the coach aspect of it too. I think Chris and I are both really in love with the coach aspect.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought that was so cool. Just like knowing that you like mentor younger people and you have like such a like a huge grasp of all these people that, love you and support you is also really cool. And I've seen it in all the comments and all the YouTube videos. It's like you are one of our top players with the most fans for sure over across all the series.
I
But that's
appreciate.
that's not just because you played Survivor. That's just because people love you as a coach and as a person.
Yeah, and I mean, I tried to bring that as much as possible into the actual game, which I'm sure we're gonna get to. But like, I wanted people to enjoy me. I mean, that comes off as very whatever the word is, but I like being liked. And shoot me. I enjoy having conversations with people. I love being able to bond with people over stuff they might not even think that I'm into. Um, Anime or even just Survivor. Like people are not going to just look at me and think he likes Survivor. I wonder why. Sports, anything like that. I love being able to relate to people on many different levels, and so I was excited to go out there and play and get to meet some fun people.
one of the questions I have is, did being a coach like make you feel pressure to, because I imagine if I'm a coach and I walk into a Survivor thing and I go, by the way, I coach this, everyone's immediately going to be like, coach? And then you maybe get sidetracked by like the Jimmy Johnson of it all, the leader, whatever. Did you ever think about not revealing that part or what that would imply in your relationship to the other people you'd be on a tribe with?
So when I first started playing games, one of the first games I get casted for, they were like, "Hey, we have another Andrew on the cast. Can we call you coach?" And I'm like, my only fear with that is people are going to think that I'm only going by this because of the character coach from Survivor, which is not true because I'm not a coach fan. Um, but then after a while, like, everyone calls me coach in my real life, and at least where I work. Um, so going in, that's just who I was. What do you do for a living? I coach. I coach college rugby. And I didn't think that that would paint me in a negative light, mainly because a lot of the people there were just built like brick shit houses, and people are not going to look at me as the physical threat, or at least I thought they weren't going to look at me like that. They're going to look at all these big men and women who look like they work out for a living, compared to this chubby kid who is balding, who has to wear hats all the time, like now.
Listen, I wear a hat the entirety of Survivor New York. Chris
You don't
does
look like
too.
you're balding.
I wear it because I don't shower during Survivor New York, so I look like a disaster.
Oh my god.
So Andrew, something else I wanted to ask about was how did you find Survivor New York and what made you want to participate?
So I joined the org community January of 2021. This was peak COVID, and I hadn't done anything in forever at that point. So I started playing these games, and I realized, oh, there are live games. I watched season 4. No, season 3, because I hadn't seen season 4 yet. I watched season 3, and I also had watched a couple of other live games and Sequester, and I'm like, people just do these things. So I saw an advertisement probably on Facebook, and I decided, hey, what the hell? I'll apply. Didn't think much of it. Like, I didn't think much of it as far as like they probably get thousands of applications. I'll probably like maybe even get shortlisted one time or whatever. But like
You
when
really flatter us with that 1,000 number.
this is just how my mind worked. And I at that point I thought the org community was Oregon LRG community was like this very large group of people. In reality, everyone knows everyone.
In reality,
But I
it's
didn't
like
know that at the time.
It
it's like
isn't
the
big. I
what's
think it's big. You play one game, you play one org, you play one LRG, you automatically get added into it. So if you look
Yes,
at the whole of online games plus live games, there's probably like almost around 100,000 of us throughout all the years of that.
that's
they
fair.
they
So yeah, we're there, but people applying to all these games, yeah, maybe you get around 300 at most. But
But when I got my
season
email
three,
saying that I had made the cast, I was ecstatic.
yeah.
And leading up to it, I'm just gonna get this out of the way now. I had ordered a purple shirt off of Hanes 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave to go play. And the shirt didn't arrive until the day that I had left, but I had already left during the day, and I got an email on the way to the location and saying, "Oh, your package was dropped off, purple shirt." And I'm like, "All right, well, let's just hope I don't end up on the purple tribe because I have a maroon shirt." And then I had to wear that maroon shirt, and I just looked like an idiot the entire time.
okay, did you ever think to be like to someone else, like, "Can I have your purple shirt?" Kind of like
No,
very Natalie,
no, no, I did not.
Natalie and Angelina. Can I have your purple shirt?
I could like I should have in retrospect, but like I was like, fuck it. I'll just wear the maroon shirt that says Scottish that somehow just ended up in my stuff when I moved to New York. I don't even know whose shirt that is. Um, but I've owned it for 7 years now, so it is mine. Um,
Yes.
and now it's just whenever I have friends or family watch it, they're like, "Why are you wearing?" So don't please stop asking me this because
Can I
it's
tell
not.
you, I didn't notice until like very recently. Like it seemed like it was like this like deep shade of purple. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna judge. People can view purple however they want to view purple.
Exactly.
And like I felt I feel like it's like on the real show too. when
Yeah.
I think of you, I think of that shirt. Like if I ever wanted you to come back, you know, I would want you to wear that
That's
damn
true.
shirt.
I thought about wearing it tonight, but I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna just keep that
So
away.
That was
you better
disappointed.
keep that shirt,
I
Andrew.
I remember when I was editing both your intro clip and editing the cast photo, I like tweaked the color a little bit to make it a little more
I
purple.
appreciate it. Well, even so, I feel like I can reveal this. I had to go back and redo my intro video a
Yes.
year and
Yeah.
a half later, and so I had to find basically all the clothing that I was wearing while I was out there, including that shirt. Which I had lost weight by then, so I had to film it in a way where I still kind of looked pudgy. And I think it checked out.
No, it looks good.
I think the weight loss continuity doesn't. It's okay. Let people know, let the girls know. You know, like let everyone know. Hello, new Andrew. Um, yeah, that was like I remember Chris. I actually think it's funny. I don't think there's a better person we could have had to fake their intro package. Like knowing how good you are at both presenting but also sort of committing. I was like, okay, I'm not worried about Andrew like pretending in this scenario. It works.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
mind at all. No, I just said that.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Oh no, that's I'm good. I'm good on the shirt. I'm good on the shirt.
Yeah,
No, I
I
ever
just
talk about it again.
I just, with this season, I feel like we had there was some footage of the Purple Tribe that was either lost or mishandled, and one of the the saddest parts, and I'll apologize now, is that there was only two confessionals of yours filmed that I have in my records. I don't know if there are more. I don't know if they were lost. I don't know the story. Um, but the two that you had were just so strong, and it was enough for me to be able to like piece it along storylines for 4 episodes. So kudos to you for being able to like be a great storyteller and use a lot of great sound bites. Like I love the Psycho Killer one. That one's my favorite. But like all the schemy things you said like about Jeremy were great too. Um, and you holding the idol was like really
Yeah, just
cute.
holding
Like
it
that
up.
one is like that's a great profile picture, I think, for
Yeah.
sure.
No, I wasn't really trying to pay attention to my edit. I was more trying to pay attention to everything else involving our tribe because I knew what I was doing there. So I didn't really need to see. I didn't really need confirmation of what I was doing because I knew what I was doing. I wanted to see what everyone else was doing. So that didn't. I mean, it still doesn't bother me, but I didn't start to notice it, I guess, until people started pointing it out. And even then, they're like, "So are you annoyed?" No, I'm not annoyed. I'm not the focal point of the season, so why would I be? I got content and the episode that I went home, and that I feel like that's all I can really ask for. I didn't go out with people saying, "Who was that?"
Yeah,
So yeah.
I would say that at a baseline, what people can assume when watching an episode of Survivor New York, and this is kind of how I feel about like most live games, is like Edgic, even though the lovely Gary from season 3 is doing Edgic can't really exist when we don't have the footage. Like it's not an intentional like displacement. And I know you know that, and I'm kind of more so saying it for anybody who's watching and thinking like where was Andrew's edit? It's like I don't know where the footage is. If we had the footage, because everybody who does have an edit probably has more footage than's being shown. But anybody where you're sort of seeing a lesser edit, we're using every scrap of what we have, and it does suck in a lot of ways. And I totally agree with Chris. And it's not really anybody's fault, but it also kind of comes down to like we don't want that to happen again, especially for a character as strong as you and as interesting as you, because we'll get into it. But your story, and I think the way that these first 4 episodes go in relation to you and your tribe, is actually a very, very interesting tribal dynamic. And I think to start off, I want to ask you how you felt on day 0 and how you felt finding out that these were the people that you were on a tribe with.
So getting there, I recognized McKenna because I had played
Mhm.
her org. And we pretended like we didn't know each other. I had recognized Edsel because he had played he had done trivia with McKenna. And then I recognized like other people just because I'm in the org community. I've seen them play games, but never actually interacted. So people like Robin, Julia, and I was just kind of reading the room. It's like, all right, I was getting along with Andy. I was getting along with McKenna, Edsel. I was getting along with Brienne, Kayla, and I felt like, okay, as long as I end up on a tribe with at least 2 of these people, we will be fine, or I will be fine. So when the tribes are being announced and it's the 5 that I end up with, it's like, okay, cool, because right after those tribes got announced, Stan comes to me and he says, "Hey, let's do this POC thing," and I'm like, that's my MO. Like for most games, POCs and women, we're doing this. So immediately I felt comfortable there. So day 0, I stayed up late talking to people outside. I think I probably went to bed around midnight because I wanted a good spot. Um, and I ended up sleeping next to Julia, Robin, and then Veronica was in front of me. And the reason I remember Veronica being in front of me is because I had to make sure she fell asleep first before I fell asleep because I'm a snorer and I wanted to make sure that everyone else felt comfortable and asleep before. So I forced myself to stay up as long as possible so that other people could get sleep, which didn't hinder me the next day, but I didn't have to play long.
Well, apparently Stan snored so loud that it caused people to move.
Oh, they don't
So
already.
you were very kind
Yeah, consider
in
it.
doing that.
And the Purple Tribe, I would say, had a bit of a rough go in that first reward challenge. Do you kind of remember that?
Yeah,
That
it was.
was
I wanted to do trivia because I knew it was going to be Survivor. Oh, I knew it was going to be Survivor trivia because we were the only team that voted for brains.
Yeah, you were.
Yes.
And I'm like, if it's Survivor trivia, I've got you. Like we're good. And it didn't happen that way. And everyone saw how it went. There's not much to say behind it. We couldn't get it going. But it didn't hinder us. It didn't hinder our spirits going into day 1, which I'm glad about. I don't think that anyone really got down on themselves. If they did, they weren't like that around me because I kept trying to keep things as upbeat as possible. So yeah, I hated that challenge, but not because of anything other than I couldn't do it and no one else could either.
Jordan, we all know you're going to
Jordan,
host
yes,
that
yeah.
challenge. We've said it like 5 times, but in case you didn't remember, Jordan Kiddish was going to host that challenge, and he's still salty about it. Well, the other thing that I remember from that challenge is I thought so the Purple Tribe, I think, had a rough go of it. I think
Yes.
you got maybe 1 person across. Like it was like pretty
I don't even think
terrible.
there was one person, if I remember.
It was a pretty atrocious challenge. It was
Yeah.
like cross the balance beam, jump over each other, all that stuff. Stan was just like jimming the camera, like in the office, just looking at the camera, like, "Hello, do you see this?" And I was like, "Bro, Stan, someone's gonna see you looking down the barrel of the lens." But I thought that you guys were gonna do terrible the next day. I was really worried that we had put a tribe together that was never going to win, because the other side of it is that we knew, I mean, it's spoiled in the next time on, but in case you don't know, we're gonna swap next episode. And so I was really worried that you guys were gonna go down to 2 people because you did so bad in that first challenge. And I was like, oh my god, I just screwed 6 people's games up. But
No.
no, you guys were, turns out, challenge dominant. How did it feel to have so many victories so early on?
Well, for me, it felt amazing because I felt like it was giving me time to bond with these people. And when I say these people, I don't mean that in a passive aggressive way. I just mean these people, my tribe mates. It gave me more time to bond with everyone. Excuse me. And really, like my goal was win enough that I know everything about these people's lives. Their likes or dislikes, their major, their jobs, where they're from, their marital life, their relationships, everything. And to this day, I can probably still tell you most of that stuff about those people at the time of filming, probably not currently. So I enjoyed winning. Now, there were other people on the tribe that as the winning continued, very vocally started talking about, hey, maybe we should maybe we should lose a challenge. Like, it would suck, but maybe we should do it so people don't target us. And there was a camera person standing at the end of the table, and I kind of pulled a Jim Halpert and like looked up. I'm like, I can't believe they're just talking about this in front of everyone. So that's when I started to realize, okay, yeah, things might not be great if in the event that we lose a challenge, because someone or some people are very antsy about getting rid of folks, and I might be the folks. And it turned out that I wasn't folks. I turned myself into folks as the episode 4 happens.
Yeah, I
That's
think it's a good way
funny.
of putting it.
I mean, I think
Chris,
when you win so many challenges, that is this long, long period of time where you guys really have nothing else to do than to sit around and just chit chat. And your beach is not that big, so it's like you guys don't really have room to spread out and chit chat and strategize, and you guys don't really get that opportunity until you lose. So I think that if anybody's going to know their tribe the best, it would be your tribe, obviously, since you guys won, the
Yeah,
first 3 in a row. I think you guys probably had a good solid like 4 or 5 hours,
we
maybe a little bit
did.
longer than that.
Um,
I
there's
would
a
love to hear like if there was any stories that you remember that you think are like funny or great. I would love to hear, because I don't really have like I said, I don't have a lot of footage. And I would love for people to hear about them as well.
we'll start with Stan because he was kidnapped in the last episode. Um,
Yeah.
he has a moment during the last episode where he says, Annie likes to talk. I'll fall asleep. I'll wake up. She's still talking. So, I mean, I can't attest to that because I feel like I was talking a lot too. But Stan did fall asleep for a significant amount of time while we were all sitting together. And it was so funny because like he was out. He wasn't like, his eyes weren't just closed. He was out. Like I feel like we could have schemed around him and he would not have known. We didn't. So that was fun. We talked about our Harry Potter houses, which is significant to my boot episode, which we will get to a little bit later. So just keep in mind that Jeremy is a Slytherin, and Jeremy is targeted by someone else in our tribe because he is a Slytherin. But we'll get to that later. We talked a lot about, and this is what I was going about earlier about just getting to know people. I tried to learn a lot about these people's romantic lives, what their aspirations were. I learned that one of their siblings was having a baby soon. One was in like this weird relationship. One just got out of a relationship. And I enjoyed listening to a lot of that. And the cameras weren't rolling for that because I feel like it was a little personal at a certain point. But like those are the types of things that I like to remember from my time there, where just getting to sit there and meet people who, yes, at the base level, we're all competing against each other, we're all Survivor fans, but like these are real people that I would have never met. He was not snoring. That I would have never met if I hadn't decided to take a leap of faith and apply for this game. So I mean, I'm sure there are other stories that there was one where right after the third challenge, me and Veronica are walking somewhere, and she says, we should work together. Do you feel like people are targeting because you're kind of like you're kind of a physical threat? And I'm like, I don't think that's true because I have not shown that I'm a physical threat at all. I carried a block and I ran, and Ari was faster than me, and he's like 6 years older than me, so that shouldn't have happened. And everything else I've
drag
kind of
Ari for being old.
Oh my gosh, I'm not dragging him for being old. But I watched you guys' exit interview with him, and I think Chris said that he was like speeding. So
He
like,
was.
yeah, and I noticed, and I told him
God.
that when I got voted out. I'm like, dude, you're pretty fast, and he was like, no way. So I'm not. The fact that he is at his age can still outrun me. Then,
Wait a second. How old are you, Andrew?
I'll be 32 in May.
Oh my
Um,
god. Okay.
but she's saying that to me, and I'm like, I'm confused by this. And like, either she's trying to butter me up, or she didn't just see me run fairly slow. So that was just a fun little moment. Julia finding the idol. I was off doing a confessional, which is why in the episode I'm nowhere to be found. And when I
Yeah.
come back, they're like, "Hey, sit down." Julia found the idol, and I'm like, "Okay, I don't know how I'm supposed to react, but I'm gonna say, okay, cool, yeah, nice job." I would have rather her just found it. And watching the episode, I feel like someone could have seen her, so I understood why she did that. And whenever she's here to do this, I would like to see what her thinking was in that situation. But yeah, our tribe was fun for 3.5 rounds.
Well, I found that in retrospect, I think your tribe was, I'll say, the weirdest tribe. So I know for one, I loved one of my favorite scenes is the scene right after Julia has found the idol, and Veronica is like, "Oh, I'm really sorry that I just blurted out, 'Hey guys, come here,'" because Julia finds it, shows it to Veronica, and Veronica just like gets everybody over, even though like she has no. Kind of what I love about Veronica as a character is like she rarely um she always does something that she thinks is for the benefit of the group. But if you're really thinking about it like a Survivor player, you should check in with the person before you do something for the group. So this idea of like, oh, Julia's idol is for everybody. Maybe you should have the one-on-one conversation with Julia first to be like, is this really for everybody? Or are we just assuming this? Things were, and I think Jeremy does this a little bit too, where we see later Stan says to you and Julian is like, you don't have to do that to me. I don't really need that. Like, we're just working together. It's not that, it's not that serious. Um, and anyways, that's to say that I really kind of love the way that your tribe functions because it doesn't always make a lot of sense.
No, we were the
No.
chaos tribe. It's just that we never had to vote. So we were, and it was, and in the confessional where I'm like, hey, everyone's kind of just walking on eggshells. That's what it was. Like everyone is playing nice. We're getting to know each other, but everyone's kind of feeling. And yes, everyone was very aware that Veronica and Jeremy were working together. It was, you had to have been silly to not notice it. So I'm glad to see that there are confessionals with people saying these two are clearly working together. Um, but it was just a lot of just you knew that shit was going to hit the fan if thank you shit was going to hit the fan if we were to lose a challenge. And the unfortunate part of it is, well, the goofy part of it is, right before we went to go vote at this tribal, it wasn't me. Someone decides, hey, we should do one more Iona chant for the road. And I'm like, fuck that. Like, I did it because tribe loyalty.
I think I
Um,
remember that too. I
but
remember hearing it.
it was so embarrassing because it's like, no, why are you're still putting on this facade? All right, cool. I'll see you guys at tribal. Because by that point, and we'll get to it later, I knew I was going home. Even in my voting confessional, I'm like, oh yeah, it's probably not going to be this, but sure, here you go. So it is kind of I'm not about. I'm about everyone getting to know each other and having fun at a certain point, but like don't try to keep this thing going strong because you know damn full well that some people are not actually about this vote, and it might bite you in the end, it might not, but I didn't I wasn't about it at that point. And I'm so glad that I kept my composure because as a youngster, I had impulse control issues. But as I've gotten older and as become a coach and all of that, I've gotten a lot better with
I have to say I am still shocked that you went home. Um, I think the biggest shock is Annie voting for you. I think based off of what things that I've heard about her in her confessionals saying how schemy Jeremy is and Veronica is, and then um, just seeing like her relationship with you, it just didn't seem like it made sense to me. And especially if she's saying that Stan was her number one ally, and she could obviously see, like Stan seemed a little bit closer to you and Julia, and you guys had talked a lot. So I'm kind of surprised that she swung that way, and I wish that she didn't.
Me,
Um,
me too. I was especially watching the episode. It's like, oh wow, she really threw me under the bus. Like, and I was trying to save her, because the initial plan when we got back was those two were going to try to vote her out. And I put, yes, I'll hop on my high horse and say, oh, I didn't want any women or POCs to go. Yeah, all of that is true. I also just wanted Jeremy out. That would be second. It would be POCs, women. Of course, I'm trying to keep safe, but also I want Jeremy out because he was clearly a schemer. I gave that in my confessional. And just the way he was talking about, hey, maybe we should think about throwing a challenge. It's like, no, we shouldn't think about that. We should just win and just deal with this next phase of the game if all of us get to it. So when I'm seeing Annie sitting there saying, oh yeah, this guy, it's like, oh, okay, well, and it didn't bother me on the watch, and I thought it would. Because everyone's playing their own game. Everyone's playing their own game. I have no ill will towards her for that at all. But it was just funny seeing it play out live, where it's like, oh, okay, so this is how that happened. Jeremy even says when she tells her, or Veronica tell him, oh, he wants to keep the women in the POC safe, and he says, oh, he's just using that as a cover, and I'm like, am I using that as a cover? Have you talked to me? No. But it is what it is. Annie played a great game up to this point, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the game plays out for her.
I remember watching this happen. I also think that you guys had a rough go of it in the challenge. Like I would say that was what people didn't see is that like we had the challenge took a long time because initially everybody was holding the strings at a longer length and it was kind of impossible. And people were not good at it. And so then we gave them the modification and we ran the challenge. And I think it was a very frustrating challenge for the Purple Tribe.
Just a little bit.
Just a little
Well,
bit.
it's so funny because like rewatching it, I'm watching it with my roommate and a friend of mine, and the first thing I remember is this challenge took a long time. So going into it, I'm like, okay, how much are they going to cut? Turns out they cut a lot. But
You say they like it's not just Chris and I.
It's me and Alan. It
so,
was sort of embarrassing, but
so when we got our first ball in, I'm like, wow, I don't remember it happening that fast. Do we win this? Do I remember this wrong? Especially because as we get closer to dropping the second one, I'm like, no, this didn't happen like this. This is fake news. And then I kick the bucket over, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Now is when the wheels start to fall off. And to Stan's credit, and I want to talk about this a little later. In my head, Stan was the leader of the tribe, and I was fully on board with that because I didn't want to I'm a very strong personality. I like taking charge of things, but like we had this person that wanted to do it. You could tell he wanted to do it a lot more, and I'm like, sure, you know what? You can have it. So he was getting very agitated during a challenge, and I felt like one of his players felt like I was letting him down. And when we lost, he came up to me and was like, hey, dude, I'm sorry for yelling, this, that, and the other. I'm a coach. I get it. I understand your frustrations through all of that. But it was just, it sucked losing that challenge. But in that moment, I thought, okay, well, we'll just get rid of Jeremy and we won't let this happen again. And then what happened, and
yeah, I thought that was funny. Like Stan is like screaming, like, "Dude!" Like every time that you guys miss it,
yeah.
and that watching that challenge was so frustrating, just because like you guys had that first one in there, and like you see Paula Pal struggle, and this was that first challenge I think of the
Oh,
season where
Powerball couldn't get out of the gate.
Yeah,
they kept
Yeah.
you guys would make it
literally.
like almost all the way there. Polypel kept dropping like 2 feet. Like they couldn't make it anywhere.
And you, as a viewer, I would think like there is no way Paula Pal's winning this challenge. Like purple is getting close, and like you guys were right next to the bucket, and you just
Mhm.
wouldn't get it in. Like 3 times, you had 7 attempts for the second ball, and you were close. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's like that's another like. So I had played this like thing in my head, like you know, if purple won that challenge, like then Andrew would get to the swap and it would change like his place. I know you're saying that you don't like to talk about the what ifs and stuff like that, but that's my favorite part. I love to think about, all the what ifs and stuff like that. And I have so many different things if they happen differently that you would have made it so much further. Like if Stan doesn't get captured, say Veronica, Annie, or Jeremy get captured, you stay in, you go deep in the game, or even if it was Julia versus Stan, you still stay in the game.
Yeah.
So there's just like, oh,
And like you said, yeah,
frustrating.
I don't like to play that game because I feel like it drives a lot of people crazy.
You can
You know,
get lost
you
in
really
It's
can.
true.
the
It's
Just lay
true.
business.
in bed all night, and like the first, because spoilers. I come back and help the second day. Is that wrong to say?
No, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
So
fine.
I
Okay.
teased it a little bit that I talked about some dedicated players who stuck around the whole time, and yes, you are one of them.
Okay. So I come back to help the second day. So I have to get a hotel that night, and that was really the only night where I actually went through my head about what could have gone differently. But by the next day, I was fine. I was talking to folks just like as if nothing had happened. Within reason. You can't talk about the game, but like I wanted to make sure they knew, the people that I had played with and people that I didn't, like, hey, I'm here to have fun. I'm here as a spectator now. Because that and the sad thing is a lot of people in this community, not only the LRG community, the OR community, they do linger on these things. And they linger on these things a lot. To the point where you almost don't want to be around them because they just continue to bring stuff up from 20 games ago or 2 years ago or whatever the case is. And it's like, dude, we all lost. We all lost. Losing sucks, but we all did it. You're gonna have to learn to move on. So it's unfortunate, but that's why, yeah, like Chris was saying, that's why I try not to linger on those things because I don't want to be,
Yeah.
I don't want to hate.
Has anyone ever heard the Bruce Springsteen song "Glory Days"? If not, you should check it out. Think
Oh,
you
which
would
album
get
is
the
that on?
vibe.
I
I
don't
might
even
have to
know.
listen to it, but
Well,
I
another question I had for you, Andrew, was there were a couple Bannerman Island decisions that Iona had to make. For example, you protected Kayla, and you gave Robin an extra vote. No, that was a Sopas. What was the other thing that Iona had to do, Chris?
Stan didn't take the idol clue.
well,
Okay,
there's a few. So like first one, like choosing Jeremy to be the tribe labor leader. I would like to know why the hell did you guys choose Jeremy for
I'm
that?
fairly certain he offered, and I'm just like, sure,
Okay.
you can do it, whatever. Because I think the way you guys had it set up, it looked like there was going to be a puzzle. Like there was something that I'm like, there's no chance in hell I'm doing this.
See,
So
Naomi, we faked something, but I
the
cannot
puzzle
remember
psycho. Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
I
okay,
don't
so
remember
I'm
what
like,
we faked.
whoever offers, I'm voting for them. And so Jeremy gets it. He picks Stan. Stan goes to the camp. He's the only one that doesn't take the idol clue. We win that first challenge, and I think that momentum just carried us for the next couple rounds. But for the Kayla one, I think it was me and Stan and maybe one other person. I really liked Kayla Night Zero, um, and I wanted to work with her in the game. So when we got that decision, in my head was it's got to be Kayla, whether she's safe or not. I would like to. And then Stan spoke up and said it, and I'm like, cool. Me and Stan are on the same page. I didn't even have to say anything. And hearing now, in the I guess episode 3 maybe where Kayla says that she's good with Stan. There was one episode where she says she's good with Stan. Um, I'm glad that we did save her. what it meant, I didn't really like, if that makes sense. But I was very agreeable with most of the decisions that we made. Um, who sat out certain challenges, who did certain challenges. Because the reason I was even in the last challenge that we lost was because I wanted to be the thrower. Like the goal was
Uh-huh.
to get to the point where I could throw, because it's like, all right, I know how to throw a ball, I know how to aim at a target. We've got this. All we have to do is get 2 balls in a bucket. How hard can that be? It's pretty fucking hard. I'm sorry.
How hard can it
Did you
be?
sit out of any of the challenges? I think you
I
played them
sat
all.
out
Or the
of
third one. The third one, maybe?
I sat out of the third one, the digging one. Yes.
What did you like when you sat out? There was, I think, a few other people that sat out. Did you try to talk to the people in the other tribes, if you
Um,
remember?
I'm trying to remember who was sitting out of that. I mean, I probably just asking how everything is going. I didn't really try to pry too much, because if I remember correctly, it was people that I hadn't really talked much with.
It was Danny, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, me and Danny didn't really talk much night zero. Um,
Yes.
and leave that there. And I don't know who was there, but I just knew I'm just going to share pleasantries, but I'm not going to really share anything else. And if someone asks me something, I'm just going to say, "Oh yeah, we just kind of talk about life." Because we did. Like, that was
Yeah.
I wasn't bullshitting. Like, we talk a lot about life. That's how I felt I was contributing to the tribe, by saying, "Hey, let's talk about this, that, and the other." I don't want to talk about game right now, because I don't want us not trusting each other going into these challenges, because I know how much trust means when you do play in a game, or a challenge, or whatever. And it worked, until it didn't.
Well, I think that strategy, let's go back to it for a second. The strategy of the social game is so key, because we saw Julia talk about it in
Mhm.
episode 2 or 3, I
Yep.
believe.
She's laying on the table.
She she's so, the leg on the table confessional is one of my favorite, evocative of Paddock from last season, on also on her stomach. But uh Julia talks about how she doesn't like the social. She says that essentially Jeremy and Veronica have no social game. It's a lot of hypothesizing, is what I called it. A lot of thinking about the future, but not being very present in the now of who you are around.
Yes.
And I think that, Andrew, because you had so much time, the social game is so important, because you essentially want somebody who will never say your name. And actually, luckily, Jeremy and Veronica were never going to say each other's names. And you had somebody like Stan who was never going to say your name. And the problem, I think, became that Julia was less strong in never saying your name than Veronica and Jeremy were in not saying each other's name. And what I've seen a lot in Survivor, especially in these games, is that like you just have to have somebody who's like, I will not vote for that person. And oftentimes it's enough work in the early game to sway a vote.
Yep.
And it's a shame to lose Stan, but I think that it was a very effective trio, the three of you. And it was a trio that cared about each other and had a good emotional connection to each other, rather than just thinking about, like, all right, well, when we get to round 16, what are we going to do, guys?
Yeah. And I honestly, I felt that way about the two of them, and I felt that way about Annie, because we had a conversation. I think when we were doing cast photos, where I'm like, "Hey, I just want to let you know now," because me and Annie had the same birthday, same year. I live in New York. She lives in Florida. She spent her 30th in New York. I spent my 30th in Florida. Like,
I don't
we
know what you're talking about. Annie's 25.
sure.
Uh,
So,
when's your guys' birthday?
May 15th, 1991.
Cute.
So we're bonding through that, but then we start talking about actual life things, and I tell her, she's the first person in the game that I tell this to. I'm like, "Hey," because up to this point in my game history, I was still very much pro POC women thing. Like, I've grown from that now, because oftentimes it doesn't work, or people think that you're bullshitting. I was like, I will not vote you out. I I don't know how I phrased it, but I made sure she knew that like I was not going, like at least pre-merge, I was not going to come after her. And probably as the game progressed, I probably wouldn't have either. So it was the three of them that I was like, there was no way that I'm coming after them unless it's the four of us, and then that's when decisions actually have to start being made. To find out later that, at least on Annie's end, she was less comfortable with that relationship. Once again, it's all good. And I wasn't heartbroken by Julia doing it either, because I understood, at least in my head in that moment, I understood Julia has to go with the numbers because these people all know she has the idol. They could potentially rat her out in any type of swap or merge situation. She has to make sure that she is on board with these people. So, like, my friends asking me, oh, why didn't Julia play the idol, this, that, and the other? It's like, I wouldn't have wanted her to play the idol selfishly because, or not even selfishly, just as a person that cares about people, Ellie. I wouldn't have wanted her to do that because she potentially screws herself later in the game. And I don't want that because at this point, I'm rooting for her, Stan, and a few other people on other tribes. So the fact that Julia wrote my name down never bothered me. Because I understood and I was hoping that that would help her along the way, and I hope that it does help her along the way.
Yeah, I mean, we
I
saw exactly what
disagree.
happened to Kayla
Chris disagrees.
by oh. Well, I think we saw exactly what happened to Kayla when she voted with Talk, and how that immediately allowed the other three to say, well, she just wrote this person's name down. Like, oh no, look at this. And I do agree with the sentiment of like, sometimes you can't be mad at an ally. Like, save yourself. Sometimes it is save yourself in the game of
Well,
Survivor.
I disagree that I think Julia should have played the idol on him because if she plays the idol on him, then it keeps intact this strong alliance of three people. And she had said time and time again how she disliked Jeremy and Veronica for being so schemy in the game. So it cuts a very strong pair of people that she had already established that she didn't like in the game. So that person would then feel no other choice but to just find a new home, and that new home could easily be the three people that is Julia, Stan, and Andrew. So I was thinking in the terms of like you play the idol either offensively or defensively. Defensively is for yourself, offensively is for people that you can gain as an ally or to make big moves. And I think that, Julia was just a little too scared because it was a little too early and she just didn't want to burn the potential idol that she could save for herself in the future.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
I
and
get
based
I
off
get what you're saying too.
yeah.
Like you're a good person for saying that, but I think like if you're looking like next level survivor player,
Yes. If this game was
then
for
sure.
honestly, if the game was for, and not even $1 million, if there was a prize at the end, because I wanted to win so badly, because I hate losing. Losing sucks. I wanted to win so badly, but I realized if I lose this game, I'm not going to sit there and regret the rest of my life, because I know that there could be another time that I could play either this game or another game similar to it where the stakes are high enough where I will be upset that I lost, but not like I just lost life-changing money or even just $1,000 to put in my pocket or $500 to put in my pocket. So at that point, it was just like, you know what? I hate that I'm losing here, but at least Julia can see another day and potentially see a lot more other days because she didn't use this in this situation. Yeah, so I agree. Like I feel like if the stakes were just a tad higher, I would have been like, Julia, please. I
Yeah.
might have even begged her, but like I'm not gonna have someone that I feel really good about in a game jeopardize it when I know that winning means as much to me than it does to her. That means to everyone out there. I'm not
Yeah.
discrediting anyone out there. Everyone
Yeah.
winning should be everyone's top priority out there. Why are you playing if it's not?
I do
Yeah.
want to interrupt really quickly to say, hey, what did you think of the first Vaboot? Question from Laura Holzwasser. Laura, thank you so much for being a fan. No, I am interested in your relationship with Laura, Coach, because I do think that you were two people who I thought would get along when I cast you too, and I'm curious how you felt because also so far we've seen an interesting trend, right? Laura was the first person voted out, and then it was Tak, Ari, and then you. So actually, funny enough, Laura's the only woman who's been voted out so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that to be just sorry. I'm sorry, Laura. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. I found that to be very interesting. Whereas last season we actually saw like mostly women voted out in the pre-merge, like in kind of an egregious number. But tell me about your relationship with Laura first. First off,
So night zero, we were sitting under a tree. There's a table for my memory is insane. And I'm sitting here, Laura's sitting here, and we're talking about something, and Laura brings up that she's Jewish, and I'm like, I thought you said you went to BC. She's like, I did go to BC. I'm like, oh, how was that experience? And so we started talking about that. She was early, I believe, in her relationship at that point, and I'm like, I really like this person. Hopefully, we can get together tomorrow and do something. And so when their tribe loses first, and this will add confirmation to what a lot of people have talked about on the first 3 episodes. We get back to camp, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I think it's gonna be Laura. I think Laura's going home. I think Laura's going." I'm like, "Why is Laura going home? She did all right, and she seemed really personable on last night." And they're like, "Well, she's really big in the community, and like I feel like people are gonna be threatened by her." I'm like, "Well, she told me last night that she doesn't really do well in these games, so I don't think that that's gonna add much stock. But I don't know you people, so maybe." And they stroll in. She's not there. Everyone starts nodding, and I'm just like, oh, okay, maybe these people were right. Maybe she is a threat. I don't know. Well, me and Laura have talked since then a fair few times. We texted a lot after the game ended, and we've met up, I believe, just once. But we text occasionally, and yeah, I know, and I watched her post game interview, and you could tell that she was very peeved about how that game went for her. And like I understand it because it's not like she is like some all-time legendary LRG player that like always wins or whatever. And even if she was, it's a new game. So the fact that my tribe knew her reputation so much that they were able to call that, and for her to actually go, there were other circumstances that sent her packing, but like, and apparently, it bothered me, as much as watching Ari go home, because Ari is another person that I really enjoyed night zero. So, yeah, it was unfortunate. She was one of the people there when I got voted out. Her and Ari were both sitting there with George, and they all helped me decompress. Because fun fact, when you get voted out, at least for me, my body went into like when Chris read my last name, my body went to like full shock. So like watching it happen on screen, I don't remember any of that because my body just kind of shut down. I was just kind of going through the motions, almost to the point where for anyone that's ever seen Moneyball, I Moneyballed my way out of Tribal. There's a scene in Moneyball where Billy Bean like does this weird little walk. I walk like that on my way out because, and I don't know why I did that, but I just had that scene in my head. And so watching it happen on screen is like, all right, wow, you're clearly just not in the right mindset. And it was Laura, Ari, and George and Alex that were there to like say, hey, it's all right. This is your time to just get it all out. And I was fine. And I'm very thankful for the 4 of them, but specifically Ari and Laura, for being there and being people that are in this community and can really. One was more pissed than the other, but I appreciated having them there.
That was going to be one of my questions too, was like when you got voted out, you just didn't even look at your tribe at all. You didn't say anything to them, and you just had this like funny little like walk to get your torch, and then you brought it out, and then when you left, I don't know if I edited it out, but you would ask me, "Do I leave my torch here?" And I said, "Yeah, you just leave your torch in the slot," and then you left and you did your little dance out, and they said bye to you, and just, like, you flung your hand back and waved, but you didn't look at them.
Yeah, I
So,
don't remember any of that at
yeah.
all.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'll say I've been in that situation too. I am in shock, I don't even think to say anything or do anything, so now I get a little bit more context. I thought, up until this point that you were kind of upset at them, and that's why you did it.
no, I honestly, because, and I guess we can get to. Well, I don't know if we're going to. We're definitely going to get to it, but I had known that was going to happen anyway, and my body still shut down when it happened because
Mm.
it was just. It was just. I don't even know how to compare it because there's really not anything that you can compare it to. Um, but it was just in that moment I everything is kind of blacked out, and I just kind of blacked out. And even just watching my last confessional before we go to tribal, I'm kind of looking around, looking down, which I'm not facing the camera like I usually am, and I think it's because I'm already trying to prep my body for what's about to happen in 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
Something that I something that I wanted to ask about was going back to like the Annie of it all. Is I felt like you and Annie did not connect during this strategy session.
Yeah.
And I thought I remember in my head, I thought that if you just got Julia and Annie together and you said to both of them at the same time, "Hello, let's please work together, Stan will come back." And I asked that not so much as a what if, but I'm wondering if my memory is correct because it felt like you didn't get the two of them together and Annie got kind of pulled to the other side and then she was kind of a lost cause, if I'm remembering correctly.
So I know that for sure I know that me and Annie talked. I know that Julie and Annie talked separately. I don't remember if the three of us talked separately, and I do agree. I think that if the three of us had, potentially we've kind of come up with something. My thing was, because I felt so good with Annie that, like, when I'm telling her, Jeremy and Veronica just told me your name. I am sticking to what I have told you since the beginning. I am not voting you out. I am not voting Julia out because she had said at one point they were on the fence between me and Julia. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what that actually means. Um, as I go to push my glasses on my face that are not there. So I do think that if the three of us had sat there, we could have figured something out. My bigger thing was, so earlier in the game, Veronica goes, "I am a horrible liar," and it's like I didn't put any thought to it because it's like, all right, cool, whatever. Well, then when there's a scene where me, Annie, and her are strategizing, and the way it's shown in the episode, I think this is how it actually happened at first. I go up to her and she says, "Yeah, I think we should get Jeremy out. He's scheming." I'm like, "Oh, all right, cool. Like I don't even have to say anything." And then she says, "Well, also he's a Slytherin," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "Well, I don't trust Slytherins." And I'm like, "Wow, she's actually just lying to me by saying, like, it was like in the history of lies, this has got to be the one that is so." And so I'm like, I had like this moment on my face, at least I remember, where it's like, "Oh my god, I think I'm getting voted out," because she's saying she wants to vote out Jeremy because he's a Slytherin. And I remember I gave a confessional where it's like, "Yeah, I want Jeremy out because this, that, and the other." What's cut out of that confessional is I feel like Veronica just lied to me because she just said, "I want to vote out Jeremy because he's a Slytherin and a schemer." And so, I wish, if it didn't happen, I wish that me, Annie, and Julia had talked. But just based off of how I've seen Annie play on screen and how she played in this episode specifically, I was never a priority for it, and I get that. Like I said earlier, you have people you want to work with, you have people that you don't want to work with. I wasn't one of those people. I understand that. It sucks that I wasn't, but in a different game that might change, or a different situation, like y'all mentioned earlier, if Stan is there, maybe she would be more willing to work with me. But like, I can't, I can't look bad. Like, also, because I just really liked her out there. I can't really fault her for how she did because it might pay off for her in the end. And then
Right.
everyone else looks stupid because she does better and we don't, or maybe she gets voted out next. We don't know. But you can't judge people based off of their decisions because it could ultimately work for them in the end.
I think that's a really astute observation because, and I'm wondering how you saw this in the edit. I also saw a lot while I was filming, Andrew, that people were sort of asking you to vote for Annie. They were sort of saying to you, listen, if you want to save yourself, you better vote for Annie.
Mhm.
And I saw you thinking, I don't want to do that. And I really do respect that in a way because lots of people are going to say that Survivor is about winning. Sure. Survivor is also about making social connections. And there's a world where Annie and Julia vote with you and Jeremy goes home. And what happens if you vote for Annie in that moment? And I think that you really stuck to your guns in a way that proved the ally that you are in playing the game of Survivor. And I was always kind of saddened that they were basically like, yeah, we'll vote out Andy because it came down to like a lot of like challenge talk in weird ways. Like
Which
there's a
is
lot of
so
sort of
like,
BS challenge talk. And I was like, guys, let's be fucking for real here. Like it's like it's digging in the sand and throwing some bean bags. And I love
That is so
everyone.
funny.
it's
Like,
so frustrating because yes, they're saying that about her, and then in the same breath they're like, Andrew's a challenge threat. And that's the second. Oh, well, this is the second time I'm hearing it, but this is the first time I'm hearing it on camera. I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, Andrew could be a challenge threat. I'm like, based off of literally what?
Yeah, respectfully, Andrew, I don't know what they're
Challenge.
talking about. Like you did
And
as well
yeah,
as everyone else did, which is
I love
fine.
how, like, in the first episode, Veronica and Julia are like, well, she's not that great at challenges, or I don't think she will be based off of the balance beam challenge
which
when
we all saw.
nobody was. Like, okay,
We all
like let's look
sucked here,
if we look
guys.
at Annie's track record, it's like on par with everyone else on the tribe or a little bit better. The only person that succeeded maybe a little bit over anybody is Stan.
Yeah,
So it's like,
everyone
what?
else was on a level playing field as far
Yeah.
as challenges on the tribe. So even when because they're in my ear about that too, they're saying, I mean, I'm throwing my hat, I'm getting all. They're in my ear about that too. Like, oh yeah, if we're not swapping here, like, it's like no, I'm not doing it. That was a problem for me in 2021. I will say, like, I'm very.
Shame on Stan for saying that. Shame on Stan. Just because she showed up in high-waisted, wide leg pants and wedges does not mean she's gonna be bad in challenges. That's what
That was
everyone keeps
iconic
thinking.
too. That was so
That
good.
was iconic,
I mean, we
okay?
didn't tell anyone we were going to do a challenge on day 0, and you shouldn't have expected it based on the past 2 seasons. And that's why you got to expect the unexpected.
Want to
But I
trigger
wanna
me.
just say what you were saying before, Naomi.
Joel, thank you so much.
Love Joelle.
Uh, the fact that, there was opportunity for Andrew to just say, "I'm willing to vote Annie." I really believe at the beginning of the strategy talk,
Yeah.
that was where Veronica really wanted to go. Like that was like her heart was set for that. And
Mhm.
Jeremy was like a little bit that way, but mostly toward Andrew, but had the ability to be convinced. Where if Andrew just went up to Jeremy and said, I will stick with you to the end, I will vote Annie now, I'm your number one ally, I think that would have been enough for Jeremy. And then yeah, it would have happened.
Yeah,
Um it's
I
just
feel like I was
crazy it's
too.
just crazy.
And this is a fault, and we can all accept our faults. This was a fault in my game. It was I was being way too stubborn because I didn't want people that I was perceiving as not in real life, perceiving as looking down on me in the game. I didn't want to do what they wanted to do because I at least have that for me here. I'm not gonna play your game. I will play Julia's game, I'll play Annie's game, I'll play Stan's game. I'm not playing y'all's game because I feel like in game, y'all don't have me high on your priority list. So if you're telling me to do something, I'm like, you can kick rocks. And that's, yes, that's ultimately what cost me. And so that's why I've never held it against anyone, because I could have just played ball. And in almost any game that I've played since then, I have tried to play ball as much as possible because I knew this episode was coming, and I knew that when I watched it, I was going to look at myself and say, hey, no matter, these games are all about playing ball with people until you can get them. We've seen it through 43 seasons of Survivor. But that was the one hill that I wasn't willing to die on for some reason, is playing someone else's game that I wasn't willing to play ball with. So it is ultimately my fault, but
I will say, I having seen up to the merge episode now, I think that's a big storyline in a lot of people's games. Is they're playing the game for the people who don't necessarily uh, have their best interests in mind. And it's going to happen to a lot of other people going forward in different scenarios. And it's going to work out in different ways for different people. But I think that this season is actually filled with a lot of frustration from individuals about, like, why are we doing this? I want this to happen and nobody's listening to me. So I think that if you're somebody who doesn't know how the season, if you're a viewer and not a player, I think you should watch it with that perspective in mind of the ways that players don't seem to get their way, and who actually successfully can work with people who are operating in their best interests.
yeah, I mean, just watching the first 4 episodes, you're seeing moments like this on all the tribes, and not just ours, where it feels like there are people on them that, whether they mean it or not, it comes off like they are talking down to people. And I know that, I've met everyone in real life, but like I've met a lot of these people outside of the game in real life, and I know that they don't actually act like that. Most of them. I will say that, watching it play out on screen, it's like, yeah, this was happening on all the tribes, where like there were just certain people that felt like they were either untouchable, or that they were just playing this masterful game in the pre-merge where everything, like they were infallible. And they would come off that way when they would talk to other people. And it's leaving a bad taste in my mouth as a viewer, but because I know them in real life, I know that that's not actually, hopefully that's not what their intent was. But yeah, there is a lot of, hey, can we do this? And it's like, no, shut up. We're doing this. And it's for someone that has such a big personality, watching how I kind of didn't show much of that. I realize now rewatching or watching the season, it's because I was surrounded by personalities, and I didn't want to be. I wanted to be the one that latched on to one of the person. I didn't want to be a big personality, because I can be, and I don't want people to look at me and zone in on me and say, hey, this guy needs to go because of this. Now, it wouldn't have mattered because I went home first anyway, but on the tribe. But I didn't want to be perceived like that. And if I were to ever play an LRG again, I would be more like myself, because both of you have met me in real life now. I've spent time with both of you, and you guys know who I am, and what's on the show. That's me turned down to about 6. Right now, this is probably me at 11, if we're being honest. This is probably me at 11. And I usually live my life around an 8 or a 9. So if I were to ever play again, I'd be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to be myself, like it or don't like it, but at least I know that I was my genuine self the entire time, and I didn't, let someone else take control of the tribe, or let other things happen, or let this duo form and not just like stir shit up to make sure that they weren't. That's what I am. And so sorry for getting preachy there, but
No, I like that. I feel like when you play your first game, there is a lot of intimidation and hesitation that goes along with it, and it's like you can't really, you don't feel like super comfortable to be yourself 100%. So you were like 60%, but you were like kind of testing the waters here
yes,
and there, like going to a 7, going to an 8, but then sort of reverting back. I'm sure in certain moments. But I think the real testament will be the next time that you do play, I feel like you will feel way more comfortable to be like your real authentic self. And
absolutely.
sometimes like one game is to really like teach you like your comfort zones, and the second or third game is like I would say like most people's like winning and like very prideful winning game. But if you can win your first time, then kudos to you. And if you can
You.
feel comfortable your first time, even more kudos to you. I'm not that person, and maybe you relate to me too, Andrew, in that regard.
I mean, I love the production staff for this season, so like probably. And obviously, I love the host too. I just consider you part of the production staff. Um, but yeah, I feel like this is not a testament to how I am. Like, yes, to a certain extent, yes, stubborn, all of that. But like, you don't get a lot of this. I'm very sweary, but I'm also very talk with my handsy as well. And watching the recap episodes that are also on Silent Podcast, everyone follow. Um, I'm starting to realize that, like, oh man, I really am just like there. And it wasn't until the last two episodes basically where it's like, yeah, I'm there. My favorite moment of the season, I don't even talk in for me. It's when Annie's telling her story and they catch me
I
like panning away to the camera, and I'm like, yeah, that's my favorite moment, my favorite
I
meme moment of the
knew
season.
you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that. It's
It's
because
amazing.
Annie was talking about you guys were all talking about the porta potties. I have to find that clip because you do talk in it, but it was like I was sort of focusing more so on
The story.
Annie. Um, but it
But
was
that's
just your
me. It's like
face
me
was
like
so
looking
funny.
like, is anyone else hearing what's going on here? Um,
Okay, Naomi, we need a meme of that one. It's an episode
I'll
two.
get I'll meme it up. Don't you worry. We'll put some like full cut scenes on Instagram too. I need some content for the week.
and if I'll just say, like, anyone that's thinking about playing an LRG, you should absolutely apply to Survivor New York. Like, they don't pay me to say this, so it's fine. Um,
Not yet. We have to make
Here's a
but
money first, and then
dollar.
we could.
but if you ever think, oh yeah, I can do this, or I might not be able to do this, or I want to try this out, like, this is the perfect game. It lasts just enough. You're around people that have either some knowledge or no knowledge at all of the game, and it's just a fun experience, and I feel like if you ever thought about doing the real thing, you should at least try this first, just to get your feet wet, or even just to meet other Survivor fans. Worst case scenario, I've met so many great people from the org LRG community, just in general, but specifically Survivor New York. Um, I won't. I guess I could shout them out, but like, people like Sharif, people like Edsel, people like that, where it's like, I have enjoyed these people so much, and I'm enjoying watching them play, and I can now just sit there and watch it as a spectator, both in person and now on the TV. Um, you don't just randomly get to meet these people in life. You get to meet them through things like this. Hopping off of my thing now. I'm hopping off.
I
Well,
agree.
I also want to say Stan says one of my favorite moments of the season was when you, me, and Julia were talking about Jeremy, and you chuckled. I cackled for sure. I also really liked that clip because I think we saw you three, like, I think very rarely in these games do you get to see an actual alliance just existing. And that was like a very fun moment to see, like, oh yeah, we do have them like just chilling and talking. and talking smack about the people who are not in the alliance, and like that felt very satisfying as like a Survivor fan that we have that.
I love that scene.
Me
I
too.
because when you brought up earlier, Stan's like, tell me I'm right, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what Jeremy said to us. He had come up to us and said all that, and it's just like I really and I'll bring this up in a second, but like on my tribe, obviously, I really like Stan. I mean, I like all of them, but Stan and Julia, um, because I felt like we were doing well, and both of them were doing well with others as well. Happy for them. When I got voted out, I was told, "Oh yeah, you must have really left a big impact on so and so because they cried when they voted you out." I'm like, okay, whatever. Watching the episode and seeing Julia actually cry, she voted me out. I'm like actually cried, not like tearing up. That really hit me. I had just gotten back from the bar, so like it hit me. I cried. But that's the time. Like I would say, outside of people like Sharif Edsel, Laura, um, Julia's one of the people that I am so thankful that I was able to meet in the game, um, before I even saw that scene, because she was very genuine. Not to say that not to say that everyone else wasn't, but like I felt more connected to her and Stan. That I felt like no matter what, I would love to know them outside of the game, and production and the host too.
Well, I think you make a really great point that when people do apply to these games, you should. My perspective is we all want to win. We all love Survivor. Think about what else you can get out of it besides winning, and make sure that you're taking that away every time that you participate. Because if you get focused on the winning and who beat me and how could I have done better, like you're saying, the who's, what's, what ifs, I think you lose sight of the fact that we're a community of people who really love Survivor, and this is our connection point, and this is what we, enjoy most, and it's your happy place in some ways, right? Survivor's
Even
your
though
happy place.
we're putting
So
ourselves through trauma, but at the end of it all, we're going to be happy about it.
exactly.
Which is just watching Laura's post game interview. Something that stood out to me, and I've noticed this in a lot of other games that I've played, where like some casts become more clicky than others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not to say that I feel like ours has, but I can see how our cast could be considered clicky, and it doesn't. Yeah, it's like a Greek organization, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it doesn't bother me because everyone, just like in the game, everyone connects with people for different reasons. And it's never really bothered me because I'm like, I will show up to anything no matter what. You could like me or not. I'm going to be there, and you can be upset or you could not be upset, but I'm showing up. But I know other people that, that come from this cast that feel like they have been kind of pushed to the side. And that's the aspect that does suck, because you do join these games to make these friends and all that, and so no one should feel like they've been kind of kicked to the side. So I am thankful that I have been able to build bonds with people outside of the game, and I hope that as Survivor New York progresses, that this fraternity, I guess, can continue to grow, and we can all bond with people that were not on our seasons. Just have this strong group of people that could just like I can hit up people in New York City that didn't play with me that, hey, I'm in town, whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of put that out there because I know a lot of people, and you brought up how people put a lot of stock into their placements. I won't say names, but there are still fair few people that are pissed off with how they finished in Survivor New York, and I'm not one of them. Um, there are people that are still to this day. It's just like, oh man, I can't believe this, and I'm like, oh man, you should, because it happened. So
Well, I mean, a fun thing is that you did come out to help us with season 6. which was
Didn't know
very
if I could talk about
exciting.
that, but yes, I did.
And you stayed, I think you left a
Did the
little bit
final 5.
early, a little bit early on the last day because of the train schedule and everything like that, or else you would have stayed the whole way through. So it's
Yes.
like you got to be a part of 2 different seasons, and, like, you get 2 different families of casts to be a part of, and hopefully we'll see you help us out again.
I'll be there. Just give me the dates.
So it's
I'll
like
I'll be there.
there's always more little cliques and little Greek
Yeah.
organizations to be a part of.
The
And that's
frat
more
and
of a
all
this is
that.
more of a for the people that feel like that. Yeah,
But
I'm
now
like,
you're on the real fun side. The
yes,
playing is, like,
honestly,
sort of
production is so
fun.
much fun. It is, and I just love just being around people and like knowing all the tea and not being able to share any of it. And it's
And I
um
think I think for a Survivor fan, isn't it fun to, like, basically get to put on a Survivor game and, like, be a part of that, like, getting the
yeah.
confessionals and the challenges, I feel like that's the fun part when you
The biggest
cross
thing for me was
over.
like being able to keep a straight face during confessionals. It's like, oh yeah, don't react to anything, just no sell everything. Um, and it was fun. It's everyone plays Survivor New York once and then join production the next season. It's a great time.
Yeah. That's the real 1-2 punch. Or, some people did the reverse. Some people did production and then they did the season. And I think that they had fun either way. And I love expanding this group of people in whatever capacity. And I think it shows a lot if people are willing to do production and help
Yep.
out in a season they're not cast. Because the other thing that I think maybe Survivor players need is a little bit of humility.
Oh,
And
yeah.
obviously, we have to stay humble as people who are allowing people to have this opportunity. I don't think anyone doesn't get cast for our ego reasons, but it's just fun to be around and not. Obviously, it's a competition. It's also fun to like not take a competition so seriously, and so to do production. Oftentimes, you get to know us, and then you play. That's how it is.
Yeah, there are a lot of people in the community that walk around like their shit doesn't stink because they feel like, oh, I'm a big deal because of this, that, and the other. In this game, I did this. In this game, I did this. It's like you're still just a Survivor cosplayer. Like you understand that, right? Like you're not anything special. I mean, you're special in your own world, yes. Don't want to take anything away from you, but like the fact that there are people that carry themselves as if they are better than people outside of the game because of how they did in mock Survivor and Big Brother games has always been so wild to me. And ironically, it's not usually the people that you expect it to be, which it sucks. But I that's why I guess that's one of the positives of being voted out so early. Even if I wanted to act like that, I couldn't because my shit very much does stink, whether I win or not. Um, and or finish higher or not, or whatever the case is. So that's my little spiel about certain folks in the community. This is not an attack on anyone that played Survivor New York season 5, but it's just more of an attack on people that have played LRGs in general.
Let's attack the community as a whole. Let's do it.
Oh, geez, let's not.
That's not.
No.
Yeah, I can't.
So, Coach, what I want to ask you is, what do you have going on? Because first of all, I know what you have going on, but I want you to tell other people because I think that you have wonderful Survivor insights into the actual season. And I think if people watched you on Survivor New York and thought there weren't enough Andrew confessionals, well, good news. He's done a lot of podcasts. So tell us about them.
So like Naomi said earlier, I did radio for 10 years and a lifetime ago. And I currently, for the last 2-ish years, I've hosted a Survivor podcast called Survivor Hot Takes. The most recent big thing that we did was I watched 42 seasons of Survivor in 42 days, which Naomi came on for Ghost Island, I want to say, right? Was Ghost
Yes.
Island? Okay.
The Island of Spooky Ghosts.
So that was the last big thing we did. We also covered season 43. In February on Valentine's Day, me and my co-host are doing our top 10 Survivor crushes, 10 each. Spoilers: Hannah Shapiro is still my number one.
Yeah,
Always and
I'm not shocked
forever.
by that whatsoever.
Always and forever. But the rest of the list might surprise certain people. So we have got that coming up. We're on the Survivor Buffs YouTube page and Survivor Buffs on iTunes, Spotify, and all those places. And then we're going to cover 44. Besides that, I don't follow me on Twitter at the Click KLIQ and Instagram at chosen one 0515. Sorry. And
And
also follow Silent Podcasts because they've got a lot of good shit going on, specifically GSVG recap. So
well, I was going to say, Andrew, that if there's one thing that people should do, and I don't know if people know this about you, is that you are a part of the Survivor Diversity campaign. And I
yeah,
think you are doing some of the most important work in influencing television, everyone on that campaign. And I don't think a lot of people know that about you, but I want to make sure they fucking know that about you because it is not only really cool, but I think obviously super important. And the fact that it has worked and that CBS has listened, I think we could all learn a thing or two.
yes. Follow Survivor Diversity campaign on Twitter, but also, and this is a testament to you two, especially, and whoever else is involved with casting. Yeah, I was the only black face out there, but the cast was still extremely diverse on more than yes, racial wise, gender wise, whatever wise you want to get into. Every season that I have seen of Survivor New York, you can tell they at least put some type of time into making sure that the cast was diverse enough that no one ever felt lonely or out of place or anything like that. So even if you need another reason to apply, they actually, and there is no pressure on Survivor New York to do 50% BIPOC or anything like that. They just do it, or they try to do it, and they expand it to everything else. And so yes, I mean I love being a part of Survivor Diversity campaign, but I'm also appreciative of games like this where there is no pressure on you to do it and you just do it anyway. And I feel like that, I mean, I feel like that has paid off in a few good seasons that you guys have put on. And I feel like this is a really good season. I feel like season 6 is a really good season. So I just thank you for the opportunity. It was a great time. I love being a part of this. Chris and Naomi especially, and whoever else was involved with it. But yeah, I really do appreciate it.
We love you, Andrew.
Yeah, we love you. And I think, again, I just got to say thanks, Chris, for everything because it's so much fun to get to go in your backyard for 2 days and cause
Oh my
chaos.
god. Sometimes I think, does Naomi hate me? Like I really like
I literally
like,
had this the other day because I was texting Chris a bunch and I knew he was at work and I was
oh
like, I just have
no.
like 10 ideas and I have to tell them all.
No, I always feel like I'm annoying other people with all this crap, so I'm appreciative of you guys. Thank you for actually helping Andrew and coming all the way
Yeah,
from
it's a
upstate New
big help.
York. And Naomi, you put so much time and effort. You're building a career and a life. So
I'm
I'm
barely
just
alive.
super
Yeah,
appreciative.
shout out to Liska for getting me there and back.
Yeah,
Yes.
big shout out to
Also,
Liska.
Liska. I mean, that's super cool.
Still have
The
my
the
buff.
thing the thing I love about Survivor New York is I don't ever sit there and say it's a me, my game. It's this is our game. It's Naomi puts in all this effort. Now it's your game too, Andrew.
Yeah,
Um, and it's everyone who's involved, it's their game.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, I think.
totally.
So,
Well, thank you everybody for
Yes.
listening, for watching. We have 9 people watching right now, which I think is a pretty darn impressive number considering most of our views come in later in the week. Andrew, thank you for being here. Thank you for participating and helping. I second and third everything Chris said. And you were right. You should subscribe to Silent Podcast on YouTube.
Yes.
We're on Twitch too, which is fun. Follow them on Twitter. Us, I'm part of it. And make sure to check out Survivor New York on YouTube, on TikTok. Chris is working hard on TikTok. He's
Yeah, I slacked a
our
little bit this week, but I'm gonna post
Gen
tomorrow.
Z social media manager.
See why Julia cries when she votes out Andrew tomorrow.
And check us out on Instagram, but mostly subscribe on YouTube, and please leave a comment. And check out Silent Podcasts. I also want to plug Survivor Cast International. Sounds like they're going to start talking about Survivor New York, one of my favorite recap podcasts of Survivor New York. So please check them out as well, where podcasts are available. And remember to, as the Queen Valencia says, like and subscribe to become part of the Silent Podcast family.
Valencia
Top
for
Chef season
season
20 just
7.
announced. So I will be back with Gia and Nicole, the Quickfire Queens. We're talking Top Chef, baby. It's going to be a great time. Fiji Forever. Lots of pressure cooker interviews. There's so much reality TV available here for you. So make sure to check it out. Chris, anything else?
I kind of said it while you were talking about. I said Valencia for season 7.
Valencia for season 7. You heard it here
we
first.
love it.
It started. We begin.
But it's so nice to talk to you guys. You know, Andrew, it's always great catching up with you. You do all the amazing work with your podcast. But yeah.
Yay!
Oh my God! Yay, the tree mill! I love the tree mill. I love the little gifts.
In
Love seeing
the
all
words
the
of
gifts that you guys
Kayla,
have.
shit, tree mail. All right, we're out, everyone. Thanks for listening.